Spacious air, reflecting the way of life under the Florida sky. Even the lobbies funnel in the great outdoors.
Chosen.
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. I was set apart for God's use. Formed in His image.
Chosen. They say the chain of Shaitan is not that strong. They say his time is running out, he ain't got that long. They say murder, murder, kill, this is not that song. Said I won't amount to nothing, they got that wrong. Cause I was set apart and I was shown the light. And if I get the kingdom, I'll be clothed in white. 1/3 will be delivered and the rest were blinded. Their fate is set in stone, what you ain't read the fine print? Christ is gonna give a crown to us. In the end we'll have the nations bowing down to us, with their faces to the ground to us. It's the truth, as crazy as it sounds to us. Jacob forever rules, and we're his precious jewels. Showed us love and patience, put us above the nations. And that's the gospel, thank God for choosing me. Bad news for you, it's really good news for me.
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. I was set apart for God's use. Formed in His image.
Let me tell you why. We have a different kind of shine, a different kind of mind. The rhythm's not the same, we're on a different type of time. With a different kind of pace, a different kind of race. The season's not the same, we have a different kind of taste. A different kind of salt, we are so not them. Got my sword and my shield, man, I'm so locked in. And when I came to serve Yahweh, I put my whole heart in. So I can't sit calm, I'm no Martin. And that's a reach, y'all, chosen to teach y'all. Every Sabbath you can find us in the streets, y'all. Danyaahla, my nickname is Priest, y'all. In the gym, they say that I'm a beast, y'all. Set apart, the nations all hating me. Set a trap, they lying in wait for me. Chris Paul, they don't wanna play with me. But if you love me, I'm asking that you pray with me. Cause
I was set apart for God's use. Chosen. I was set apart for God's use. Formed in His image.
Chosen. And thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people, chosen above all people that's on the face of the earth. That's Deuteronomy 7:6. That's you, black and Latin man. Chosen. That's you, black and Latin woman. Yeah. But we the chosen.
I'm telling Babylon. I'm telling Babylon. I'm telling Babylon. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? Her name is Babylon, I call her Babs for short. She has a lot of lovers, she lets them pass her port. She has a love affair with every foreign nation. She has a favorite wine, its name is fornication. She has a purple robe, she has a pearly necklace. And if you worship Caesar, she'll give you worldly blessings. She's insatiable, she cannot hide her passion. Last week, somebody said she rides a dragon. I know it's crazy, but the question is, why she had to put a crown upon its 7 heads? And it's even deeper, I had to peep the madness. She made war with the saints that tried to keep commandments. And since she killed the righteous and won't let me be, when she burns, it won't be from an STD. bodies everywhere, both man and beast. And on that day, the birds are gonna have a feast. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? Show me the finest girl, Babs is just as pretty. Her name is Babylon, the girl is such a mystery. Yeah, she's been that way since we were little kids. She nicknamed me Mark like I was 666. She said, you want my number? I said, you high as hell. She said, you need my number or you can't buy or sell. She said, take my number. I know that I can't make you, but I'm espoused to Christ and I'm staying faithful. Isaiah had a vision, he saw the elevation. Jesus preached the gospel, John had a revelation. Her lovers hated Babs, so they burned her up. What's upside down, the Lord could always turn it up. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? I'm telling Babylon. 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 I'm telling Babylon.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kwadash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Thaba'a, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazar, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Lathanawa, Lacham, Kal, Yawam, Wasalachnawa, Chaubwathnawa, Kasalachnawa, Chaubwathyanawa, Wala'a, Tabia Anawa, Manasaya 1, Abal, Hawashayanawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'atapa Arath, La'ai Walamyam, Aman.
Shalom, shalom, family, shalom. Welcome back for another Thursday. Yahabashem, Yahshai Barakatham, Washamaratham. Hope all is well with everybody. Lord's will, we have decent class. You know, y'all know I ain't going to try to take up too much of your time on this Thursday. And hopefully y'all are edified. So this class is, the game is rigged, right? Now, what I mean by that is everything is set up against us, all right? And it's been that way for a very long time. Some of our people don't think that things are against us, you know what I'm saying? Whether they believe they're Israelite or not, a lot of people don't think that things are against us. But we're going to kind of walk through it just a little bit, touch on a couple things, and find out. All right. So what we're going to start with is laws. All right, you know what? Let's start with this. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. Let's start here. All right. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. We all know this, right? It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." Right? So we know if we are disobedient to the Most High, there's a consequence. Right? There's a consequence to our actions. You know, I'm gonna say this: love a lot of times is conditional. You know what I mean? No one just loves their abuser. No one just loves their defiant child all the way. You know what I mean? Like, it's different types of love. You know what I mean? Which comes conditionally. So our condition is to follow the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments, to be obedient, right? But when we didn't do that, or when we don't do that, there's a punishment for that. All right, so let's go here. There we go. All right, laws created for Black people in America. All right. We're just going to kind of read through this. You know, we're just going to get a broad overview, you know, so we get an understanding of it. All right. So laws created for Black people in America have historically swung between extreme oppression and landmark civil rights protections. Key discriminatory frameworks included slavery, slave codes, Jim Crow laws, which mandated segregation. Conversely, landmark legislation includes the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Discriminatory laws, oppression, right? Slave codes restricted enslaved people from traveling without permission, gathering in groups, learning to read, holding property. Black codes, post-Civil War, state laws designed to restrict freedom, enforce labor contracts, and force Black Americans into involuntary servitude or vagrancy, essentially replacing slavery. Jim Crow laws, state and local laws enforcing segregation in public facilities, schools, transportation, bathrooms, and suppressing voting rights through literacy tests and poll taxes, right? So when we go into something like slave codes, let me clear this. There we go. We go into something like slave codes, right? Is that what I want? Yeah. Okay. And this is what I want from the slave codes. Movement restrictions. Most regions required any slaves away from their plantations or outside of the cities they reside in to have a pass signed by their master. Many cities in the slave states required slave tags, small copper badges that enslaved people wore to show that they were allowed to move about. You can kind of equate this, man, with our IDs today. You see what I'm saying? You got to have a form of ID to show that you are a legal, legitimate person. You know what I mean? Remember when they used to have like the stop and frisk and stuff like that? You know what I mean? This kind of merges into these things, right? So this is something that came from like the times of like the chattel slavery of the transatlantic slave trade, right? During this time. So this is like the same thing. We deal with these things right now. So when I say that things are set up against us, all of these things are put in play for us. You see what I'm saying? Like Edomites didn't have to walk around like that. They didn't have to walk around with paperwork to show who they were, right? So let's go up here. The slave codes were laws relating to slavery and enslaved people, specifically regarding the Atlantic slave trade and chattel slavery in the Americas. Most slave codes were concerned with the rights and duties of free people in regards to enslaved people. Slave codes left a great deal unsaid, with much of the actual practice of slavery being a matter of traditions rather than formal law. Right? So now when we go to scripture, what do I want? All right, let's go back to Deuteronomy real quick, and then we'll go back to this. Okay. Deuteronomy 28, right? Deuteronomy 28 says, in verse 16 says, "Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall thy basket be in thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out." Right? So we just seen that coming in and going out, we're cursed in the land, so on and so forth, right? We're already dealing with chattel slavery. We're already dealing with, having to have certain paperwork while we're out, so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? See, so everything is already starting to be set up against us. And this is just from this period on that I'm going forth from, right? We're not even talking about the things that happened before, you know what I'm saying? Like Rome and Greece and Persian Mede and Assyria. We're not even talking about that stuff, but we already know that things were being lined up, right? So, Salakia. So we already know that things are being lined up, right? Okay, let's go back to this. All right, slave codes, marriage restrictions, right? Most places restricted the marriage rights of enslaved people. Ostensibly, however you say that, to prevent them from trying to change masters by marrying into a family on another plantation. Marriage between people of different races was also restricted, right? And that's fine. We're okay with that, right? Why? We're okay with this. Me personally, I think you should marry within Israel anyway. But hey, who am I? I'm just one who reads what the Most High says. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 3. "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away the son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly." Right? A lot of our people used to sneak around and be with these other nations, you see, and we didn't think nothing of it. We are so focused on bringing ourselves to a lower estate to be equal with people, even though scripture says that we're above all people in the world. Why bring yourself to a lower estate? Why cast your bread to dogs? You see what I'm saying? All right, let's go back. Prohibitions on gathering. Slave codes generally prevented large groups of enslaved people from gathering away from their plantations, right? If we have a group of us in public places, a lot of times, people think you a gang. It's already a preconceived notion on what y'all are doing. Gang violence. I know out here in Colorado, there's a mall. If there's a certain amount of you in a group, security will ask you guys to break apart and walk in different groups. You know what I'm saying? There's certain malls and stuff like that out here. I don't know if they ever do that to Edomites. I ain't never seen that before, but I doubt it. You see, I doubt it. Slave patrols. In the slave-dependent portions of North America, varying degrees of Salaki. Degrees of legal authority backed slave patrols by plantation owners and other free whites to ensure that enslaved people were not free to move about at night and to generally enforce the restrictions on slaves. Right? We have curfews. Now, it's been a long time since I heard about a curfew, since I'm older. But I know as a teenager, there was always curfews set in place, city curfews, state curfews, stuff like that, right? And if you're out and about, they're going to stop you. Now, these curfews and stuff like that, they may apply. And don't get me wrong, even when we're going through some of these curses in Deuteronomy 28, don't get me wrong, every nation has had to deal with some of these curses. The difference is these curses follow us. These curses is a sign upon us. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to be continuous. It's not going to stop. Fact of the matter is, none of this is going to stop until Yahweh Shai returns, right? Trade and commerce by slaves. Initially, most places gave enslaved people some land to work personally and allowed them to operate their markets. As slavery became more profitable, slave codes restricting the rights of enslaved people to buy, sell, and produce goods were introduced. In some places, slave tags were required to be worn by enslaved people to prove that they were allowed to participate in certain types of work, right? So you have business license and stuff like that. See, like everyone falls subject to these types of things, right? But you got to understand where these things are being created, and what they're being created for, right? So a lot of these things are put in place due to us and our people, right? Now, like I said, some people may fall subject to that, but it was outlined for us. All right. Punishment and killing of slaves. Slave codes regulated how slaves could be punished, usually going as far as to apply no penalty for accidentally killing a slave while punishing them. This happens to us nowadays, right now, right? You got police who gun down our people with no type of consequence. You got police who batter our people with no types of consequence, beat our sisters in jails and stuff like that, no type of consequence. The most consequence they get is time off, but they still get paid. You see, later laws began to apply restrictions on this, but slave owners were still rarely punished for killing their slaves. Historian Lawrence Friedman wrote 10 Southern codes made it a crime to mistreat a slave. Under the Louisiana Civil Code, if a master was convicted of cruel treatment, the judge could order the sale of the mistreated slave, presumably to a better master. So there was no punishment. They just took your slave away, right? Education restrictions. Some codes made it illegal to teach slaves to read. Let me make that very clear, too. A lot of people think that our people could not read. That's not true. We didn't read their language. You see what I'm saying? We didn't read their language. And even then, us being the better people, we learned to read their language and we progress. And now we're still the smartest people. We're smarter than them. They had a head start, right? Let's get the book of Judges, chapter 4. And whoops, let me take that off. All right. Book of Judges, chapter 4 and verse 2. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years He mightily oppressed the children of Israel. We continuously become oppressed. When we're oppressed, we are under the laws and we're under the ordinances of where we're oppressed, right? We're in America right now. We're under these laws, these ordinances, and the consequences that come with it. You see? So we're under these things because we're in captivity. I don't know why people don't think we're in captivity. We're in captivity. And all of this, like I said, is working against us. If you look at gun laws, you see a lot of gun laws was put in effect, especially when it came to the Black Panthers utilizing their rights to carry guns and stuff like that. Then gun laws became more strict. So, like I said, now it affects everyone, but it was created and made for us. You see that? Let's get Judges chapter 6 and verse 1. I'll start at verse 1. Now, we already read that we're supposed to be obedient, following law, statutes, and commandments, or curses will fall upon us, right? Judges chapter 6, verse 1 says, "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because the Midianites, the children of Israel, made them dens, which are in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. For both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord." If you read the book of Judges, there's a lot of times where we're committing evil against the Most High. Most High warns us through a prophet or an angel or something, and then he sends someone against us. And then we repent, and then we do it all over again. You see what I'm saying? We do it all over again, right? All right. What else did we see in the laws that were created for blacks? We seen black codes. All right. We seen black codes. Okay. So black codes, and I'm going to just read this part right here. Okay. So black codes says black codes were restrictive laws designed to limit the freedom of African Americans and ensure their availability as cheap labor force after slavery was abolished during the Civil War. Though the Union victory had given some 4 million enslaved people their freedom, the question of freed black people's status in the post-war South was still very much unresolved. Under black codes, many states required black people to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refused, they risked being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor. What is a form of unpaid labor that we deal with right now to this day? Prison. They try to lock up a lot of our people and they throw us in prison, and now you have unpaid labor. You are making pennies a day for your labor, right? So what else is another form of it? Sharecropping, so on and so forth, right? This is a form of black code, right? This is a form of black code, and like I said, all this stuff works against us. You know, I mean, there is a lot of Edomites and stuff like that in prisons, you know, and statistically, they say, I haven't looked, or no, wait, you know what? I do actually have the federal statistics I actually got from I think Yahweh All from Sons of Thunder posted the federal statistics. And there's more Edomites that do more crime. But our people are, it's more emphasized on our people. And the prison system is built, mainly for our people, right? They try to lock us up, especially in the South. I remember in the South, whenever there was a new prison built, our people were getting locked up for like petty crimes, but they were getting long sentences, even children. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a money game. So it's working against us. We could see that a lot of Edomites get away with a lot more things than we do. You know what I'm saying? Or even if it's the same crime, they get a lesser punishment, right? So it's free labor. You know what I mean? It's free labor. So let's go back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 33. Deuteronomy 28 verse 33 says, "The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always." You see? So even though we put in the work to do these things, other nations get the benefits of it. We don't. You see what I'm saying? When we would be in the fields, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Native, when we'd be in the fields picking strawberries or whatever, that didn't go to them. When we picking cotton, that didn't go to us. You see what I'm saying? That was the benefit of the other people, but we did the labor. We did the free labor for it. You see? Let's drop down to verse 37. "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee." Right? Because we're scattered across the four corners of the earth, but everywhere we're scattered, these other nations look at us the same way. You see, they look at us the same way. Right? Let's go to 39. "Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast its fruits." You see this? This is us putting in the work, but we get none of the benefits. We get none of the benefits, right? Verse 43, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low." Right now we're on the bottom. See, right now we're on the bottom. These other nations who are considered spittle to the Most High are on the top, and we're on the bottom. You see, and don't get me wrong, we bring these things upon ourselves, but at the same time, it's rigged for us not to win, not to prosper. You know what I mean? Yes, we brought it upon ourselves, but it's also set up a certain way to keep us down, to keep us low, you know what I mean, to keep us enslaved. A lot of us are mentally broken, and we mentally have a yoke of iron on our necks. Mentally, it doesn't even have to be physically. The physical part, that was done. They don't even need the physical part no more because you're mentally broken anyway. Right? All right. What's another one? Let's go into Jim Crow. And we'll just kind of touch on Jim Crow. So this was another law created for us, right? Let me see, did it pull up? Okay, gotcha. Okay, Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were state and local laws introduced in the southern United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries that enforced racial segregation, right? Facilities and services such as housing, healthcare, education, employment, transportation have been systematically separated in the United States based on racial categorization. Notably, racial segregation in the United States was the legally and or socially enforced, right? Do we have that today? Of course. It's just not labeled like that. It's not put in our faces like it used to be, but it's still present. There's still a segregation, there's still a racial segregation, there's still, you know, there's still certain things that are put in play that we ignore because a lot of our people are wanting to be equal. So we're like, oh, you know, we want to be equal and we ignore what's really in our face. Because the fact of the matter is, it might not be thrown in your face like it used to be, but it's still put in your face. You see, it's still put in your face. We just ignore it. Everybody want to be submissive. Everybody want to be yes sir, boss. No, you know what I mean. You better realize what's going on, and you better realize that the whole system is working against you, right? The origin of the term Jim Crow is obscure, but probably refers to a minstrel show song called Jump Jim Crow. The last of the Jim Crow laws were generally overturned in 1965 by the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Formal and informal racial segregation policies were present in other areas of the United States as well, even as several states outside the South banned discrimination in public accommodations and voting. Southern laws were enacted by white dominated state legislatures. You know what I mean? To disenfranchise and remove political and economic gains made by African Americans during the Reconstruction era. Such continuing racial segregation was also supported by the successful Lily White movement, right? This is saying the acts of 1965, right? Voting Acts of 1965. Let's think about this. If a lot of these racial segregations and stuff like that was going on still in the 60s, that wasn't that long ago. I don't know why people look at the 60s and 70s like it was just a long time ago. No, that wasn't that long ago. So you think from the 60s to now that it changed that dramatically? I don't think so. This stuff is still in place. You see? It's still in place. In practice, Jim Crow laws mandated racial segregation in all public facilities in the South, beginning in the 1870s. Jim Crow laws were upheld in 1896 in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, in which the Supreme Court laid out its separate but equal legal doctrine concerning facilities for African Americans. Public education had essentially been segregated since it began during the Reconstruction era after 1863. Companion laws excluded most African Americans from the vote in the South. You know what? I'm going to show y'all something. You know, like I said, we fight to be equal all the time, right? Fight to be equal all the time, and you know, part of it had to do with voting. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I've never voted in my life. And all praise to the Most High that I never have. I'm going to show y'all something. Let's see. Did y'all know that we shouldn't vote? Is that on the screen? Let me see. Okay, yep. Y'all know we shouldn't vote. Let's go. Deuteronomy 17 and verse. I'll start at verse 14. All right. It says, when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shall thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. Right? So when you are voting for these Edomites, you are going against the Most High. You're not to set a stranger over you. You see that? So all that voting stuff and we fighting for voting rights and stuff like that was a setup. It was stupid. You know what I mean? We're trying so hard to be equal and it's rigged against us and it doesn't even work in our favor. It works against us. I mean, and your vote don't count. Let's just make that clear. Your vote don't mean nothing. You see what I'm saying? So let's just make that clear. You see, our people is so, like we want to be a part of something so bad. You know what I mean? Why don't y'all be a part of following the Most High? How about that? You see, because if the world hates you, go to who loves you. You willing to go against the Most High for the rest of the world? Silly rabbit. Right? Let's go back to Jim Crow. Let's see. Okay. Let's read a little more and then we'll stop Jim Crow. All right. Although in theory, the equal segregation doctrine governed public facilities and transportation, facilities for African Americans were consistently inferior and underfunded compared to facilities for white Americans. Sometimes there were no facilities for the Black community at all. Far from equality as a body of law, Jim Crow institutionalized economic, educational, political, and social disadvantages and second-class citizenship for most African Americans living in the United States. After the NAACP was founded in 1909 and became involved in a sustained public protest and campaigns against the Jim Crow laws and the so-called separate but equal doctrine. Right? So right here, it tells you economic, educational, political, social disadvantages, and second-class citizenship for our people in the United States, right? So while we're thinking that we're equal nowadays, it just told you that you have a disadvantage in every way: political, economics, social, educational, so on and so forth. You still have a disadvantage. You still have a disadvantage. If you go to a job interview and you have the same credentials, maybe even slightly higher credentials than an Edomite man, he might beat you. You're at a disadvantage. This is why our people have to work like twice as hard. You see what I'm saying? And our sisters got to work like 3 times as hard. You see what I'm saying? Because we're at a disadvantage. Right? Next way that it's against us. This is something that I just pulled up randomly. Ghettos made for Black people in America. And here's just a brief overview, right? Ghettos made for Black people in America. American ghettos, primarily created in the 20th century, resulted from deliberate state-sponsored segregation, discriminatory housing policies, and economic marginalization of Black Americans emerging after the Great Migration. These segregated areas were designed to restrict Black populations to specific urban, often underdeveloped zones. Key drivers include federal redlining, which means like a certain area, restrictive covenants, and public housing placement. turning these neighborhoods into centers of forced isolation, poverty, and urban decline. You see that? So even the ghettos in America was created for us. It's to put us in a certain place. If you look at our brothers from like Gad and stuff like that, you know, so-called Native Americans, where are they at? They were here first, right? But they're pushed into certain areas. And if you ever been to a reservation, reservations are raggedy. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of drunkenness, rape, stealing, crime, stuff like that. They kind of govern themselves over there. You know what I mean? And they're segregated. They're pushed to the side. They get this little portion of land or whatever to dwell on. You see what I'm saying? Even though it was stolen from them. Right? Even though it was stolen from them. Let's go back. Let's come back to that. Let's go Deuteronomy 28. All right. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 36. Yeah. Deuteronomy 28 verse 36 says, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation, whither neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. This wasn't, you know what I mean? Like when we're pushed into certain places, right? And then they give you what? They give you particular things. Other guys you'll serve, right? And that could be anything. It could be anything. It could be the white Jesus they give you. It could be the wino who stays at the liquor store. It could be the drugs in your community. You see what I'm saying? Because all these things become a god. All these things become an idol to these people, right? You don't know. You've never been to these areas and so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? See, some people think that just because we're scattered across the four corners of the earth, that it doesn't apply to right here. Nah, it still applies to right here now. You see what I'm saying? If you become poor and you start living in poverty and then you move to a ghetto, that's a place that you've never known. You see what I'm saying? If you become a wino and then that becomes your God, or like I said, a drug becomes your God, or now you start praying to this white Jesus because the Baptist church is on the corner of your ghetto, you see what I'm saying? Then you falling in all the same things. Right? Let's drop down, verse 52. Verse 52, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates. There's multiple times where Israel was besieged, right? Which means we were surrounded. We couldn't come out, right? When you are set in these ghettos, you are in a segregated area, right? And then everything around you is like you're besieged, right? Because the good neighbors is around you. So when you step out of that ghetto, it becomes a problem. Now you're looked at, now you're being profiled, so on and so on and so on, right? So we think of besieged when it comes to scripture because the way like Nebuchadnezzar besieged us. We can leave the gates, we couldn't do certain things, right? But it's the mental process of it as well. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we can't always just think, okay, we're not really being besieged because we're free to roam around. Yeah, you're free to roam around. But like I said, then you're going to get profiled when you go into certain areas. You're going to get pulled over in certain areas. You're going to get, if you're walking down the street in certain areas, you're going to get harassed, so on and so on. The people in those areas surrounding you don't want you where they're at, right? And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. Right? So, like I said, to be besieged doesn't necessarily mean like, bam, we're captive right now. We can't go nowhere. I know in this time, you know, like when Nebuchadnezzar besieged us, we would eat our children. because we couldn't leave. We couldn't go nowhere. There was a lot of things to it. But remember that a lot of these curses and a lot of these prophecies are secular. They happen over and over and over. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean it just has to happen one time, right? Let's get Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26 and verse 25. It says, "And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send a pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy." You see? So when we're gathered within our cities, we're delivered into the hand of our enemy. Are we delivered into the hand of our enemy when we living in ghettos and stuff like that? Of course. We fall subject to everything that they put in play. Right? Fall subject to everything they put in play. Let's see. Let's see what else we got on ghettos for blacks in America. Let's go here. Great Migration. Right? Following 1910, as Black Americans moved to northern cities, they faced intense housing discrimination, leading to emergent ghettos in areas like Harlem, Chicago, South Side, so on and so forth, right? So let's pull that up. Let's pull up the Great Migration. All right. So this, I just typed in Great Migration influenced ghettos, right? So we got Great Migration, 1915 to 1970s, accelerated the creation of and intensified northern Black ghettos by concentrating millions of Southern African Americans into segregated, confined urban areas due to restrictive housing covenants, redlining, and white flight, right? If you look at a lot of people, so a lot of people in Chicago that I know, and a lot of people in like LA that I know, a lot of people on the East Coast that I know, a lot of their ancestors, a lot of their people come from the South. You see what I'm saying? A lot of their people come from the South. I know a lot of people in Chicago whose family come from Mississippi, so on and so on and so on. You know what I mean? That's your migration. Okay, that's your Great Migration from the South, and they moved on up, right? All right, but remember, this Great Migration influenced and intensified ghettos, right? Where we at? These crowded neighborhoods, such as Harlem and Chicago's South Side, grew rapidly in size and racial homogeneity. Y'all know I can't pronounce nothing. Homogeneity, fueling both unique cultural developments, right? Rapid expansion and segregation. While segregation exists earlier, the sheer volume of migrants, many fleeing to the rural South, transformed small emergent ghettos into massive, dense, racially isolated urban areas. See how they keep saying urban areas? Urban, inner city, so on, so on. They just try to cover up what it is. They just give different names, just like you, Israel. They give you different names: Black, Negro, Native American, African American, Afro American. They just give it different names to make it look good, right? Housing discrimination and redlining. White homeowners associations and real estate practices often restricted Black residents to specific, often dilapidated neighborhoods, with redlining making it difficult to obtain home loans in those areas. Economic and social impact. The concentration of poverty and lack of opportunities led to severe economic neglect in these neighborhoods. Cultural growth. Despite the oppression, these areas became vibrant centers of African American culture, such as the Harlem Renaissance. Racial tension. The rapid growth of these communities often met with intense resistance, resulting in racial conflicts and riots in northern cities. While many emerging ghettos were already in place in the late 19th century, the Great Migration significantly deepened and expanded them, cementing the special patterns of racial segregation in American cities. Right? Let's see. Let's get Isaiah chapter 1. Okay. Oops. Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 7 says, "Your country is desolate, your cities are burnt with fire, your land. Strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers." Right? So when we're in these ghettos, remember it said that they're dilapidated, it's full of poverty. You know what I'm saying? They're run down, they're beat up. You know what I mean? And this is where they pushed us to by redlining and segregation and racial discrimination and stuff like that. They pushed us to these ghettos. They put our people in a bind, right? They put our people in a bind. If you have housing and you live in the ghetto, they try to keep you there, right? Because if you get a job, now they're going to charge you excess amount of money to where you can't afford to move nowhere, and you're going to have to get rid of your job and stay right there in the ghetto. I've seen that so many times. It's crazy. So they keep you there. You see what I'm saying? And they keep you in a position to where they trapped you. Like I said, like we read in Deuteronomy, you become besieged, right? If you look at LA, Chicago, Detroit, what else? St. Louis, New York. If you look at projects and ghetto communities, so-called, they're all sitting on top of each other. You know what I'm saying? Like LA, you might have like Watts and South Central and Crenshaw and Compton and Inglewood. Then you have Hawthorne and Gardena. They're all lined up. And then right across the way, you got Long Beach. You see what I'm saying? Same with Chicago, right? You got this project building, this one. You see what I'm saying? They're all lined up, sitting on top of each other. So what does that do? That makes you guys go to the same schools, makes you go to the same stores, makes you go to the same movie theaters, so on and so forth. And then it brings another culture in, right? Brings another culture in, and I'm gonna touch on that as soon as I get this one right here, right? Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 5 says, "And now go, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the heads thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyards of the Lord of the hosts is the house of Israel." Right? So what did he say will happen to the vineyard? He'll take away the hedge. So the Most High will take away our protection. That's the hedge, right? He'll take away our protection. "And the men of Judah his pleasant plant, and he looked for judgment, but behold, oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry." Right? So we become oppressed. He takes away that hedge, and we become oppressed. Right? So you think that people in the ghetto want to live in the ghetto? No. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, when they're stacked up on top of each other, and you're going to the same schools, same stores, same so on and so on. You see what I'm saying? It brings another culture in, right? What does it bring in? Now you're dealing with poverty. Now you're dealing with drugs, so on, and whatever else they push in our communities, this is what we're dealing with, right? So this is what it brings in. It brings in gang culture, right? So gang culture pushed in inner cities. Remember, like I said, inner cities, urban cities, whatever. It's just a way to cover. It's just a pretty way of saying you live in the slums, in the ghettos, or projects, or whatever. You know what I mean? They just give it a different name. All right. So we got inner city gang culture is predominantly driven by systemic social economic issues, including poverty, lack of educational and job opportunities, and neighborhood instability, right? That's the ghetto, right? You don't really go to you don't go to $1 million homes and see gang banging. You see what I'm saying? And see drug dealings hand to hand, and you don't see shootouts. You know what I mean? They go to another neighborhood to get all that stuff. If you got a millionaire who is a cokehead, he's gonna go to somebody else to get his coke. You see what I'm saying? He ain't going to his neighbor unless his neighbor's on the same type of time. You see? All right. It thrives in marginalized communities where gangs offer a sense of belonging, protection, illegal income streams to vulnerable youth. Socioeconomic disinvestment. Lack of legitimate economic opportunities leads young people to view gang activity as a viable way to gain wealth, power, and survival. Right? Let's drop down. Drug economy. Larger gangs have historically expanded into areas to manage drug distribution, further entrenching a culture of violence, as seen with crack cocaine in the 1980s. I'm an 80s baby, so I seen this. You see what I'm saying? I seen this. Cultural reinforcement. Violence is often utilized to maintain reputation, territory, and to uphold moral economy of respect and loyalty, which can act as a substitute for failing social structure, whatever. I don't know how to say that. All right. So you have gangs, right? Gangs usually develop in poverty-stricken areas, drug-stricken areas, so on and so forth, right? Remember, remember, we fall under these curses for being disobedient, right? So let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 54. There we go. Deuteronomy 28, verse 54 says, so that the man that is tender among you, very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left Salakia, because he hath nothing left him in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in thy gates. We are oppressed, right? Oppression make a wise man mad. And that scripture is not talking about angry. It's talking about it'll drive you crazy. You see what I'm saying? It'll drive you crazy. Oppression will drive you crazy. We're subject to these small areas, these ghettos. Like I said, you're going to the same stores, same theaters, same schools, so on and so forth. You're living in poverty. You have drugs to deal with. You have alcoholism to deal with, so on and so forth. And then y'all are on top of each other, and it's full of anger, full of violence. You know what I mean? And then you fall subject to it, and now you have an evil eye towards your brother. You see what I'm saying? So now when you go into the same school, you in a fight. It happens real fast. All of it happens real quick. You see? And like I said, that falls under the curses, because then we start looking at each other in a messed up way. But like I said before, it's set up that way. You see what I'm saying? It's set up that way. It was made so you're pushed to this area. It was made so so-called natives is pushed to this area. So that way these other nations can function however they want. And then in the meantime, while we kill each other, it's set up, right? Let's get another one. Let's go Deuteronomy 15 and verse 9. All right. Deuteronomy 15 and verse 9. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the seventh year, the year of release is at hand, and thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest him not, and he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be sin unto thee. Right? This is talking about something in specific, like if another Israelite is like working for you. You know what I'm saying? They owe a debt, so on and so forth, right? They're not like your slave, but they're working for you. After the seventh year, you're supposed to let them free from their debt. Okay. But right here it's saying that you'll have an evil eye. Don't we hold things against our brothers and sisters all the time? Especially if it comes to like money. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that brother owed me this, that brother owed me that. You see what I'm saying? Our people always have something negative towards one another. Even though the law states that we should love our neighbor as we do ourselves and that we should not hold a grudge, right? But we do it to each other all the time. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's set up that way, and we'll get into that too. Let's go Proverbs 28 and verse 22. Proverbs 28 verse 22 says, he that hath to be rich hath an evil eye. Salakia. Let me read that again. He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, and considereth not the poverty, that poverty shall come upon him. Right? I say this to people, when you live in the fast lane, you're bound to crash. Live in the fast lane, you're bound to crash. So if all you do is chase money, you know what I'm saying, which makes you a wicked person, because for the love of money is the root of all evil, right? So if you just chase money all the time, you're not even understanding that you're bound to crash. You're bound to crash. So you might end up in poverty, right? I just had this discussion with someone, I can't even think of who. Oh, yes, I do know. A partner of mine at work. So look at the drug game, right? Our people don't own coca fields. We don't own poppy fields. We don't own any of these types of things. We don't own that. But somehow these things flooded America, and somehow it flooded our communities more. Right? So now something to try to help you get out of poverty is in place, but it's set up for you to fail, because when they catch you with it, even though they gave it to you, they catch you with it, they're going to put you in jail. Now you're going to prison. See? So you're not the big fish. Really, you're the bait. Right? Let's get another one. Matthew chapter 20. And verse 15. Matthew chapter 20, verse 15. Is it not lawful for me to do what I will with mine own? Is thine eye evil because I am good? You see how we hate on one another? We hate on one another. Easily. We do it with no problem. And we think nothing of it. Right? I'm going to skip a couple. Let's go ahead and go. Let's go Micah chapter 7. Micah chapter 7 and verse 5. Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. You see that? Like I said, we hate on one another. We'll go against our father. We'll go against our mother, our daughter-in-law, so on and so forth. Your enemies are those of your own household. It's easy. We hate each other, or we hate on each other. We hate each other, but like I said, that falls under those curses. And all they do is train you to do so. They just mold you to do so, right? Let's get another one. Matthew 9, 11, verse 11. See, here's an example of our people hating on our people, right? Matthew 9, verse 11 says, And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto the disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Yahushua heard that, he said unto them, That they be whole, Salakia, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but the sinners to repentance. Right? If you're already the righteous, what do you need repentance for? Right? But you see how easy the Pharisees, who are Jews, was hating on Yahushua and his disciples. It like comes natural to us. Right? Let's get one more. Proverbs 23. Verse 6. It says, Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meat. For he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. Right? His heart's not with you. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of people who fake the funk with you, you know what I mean, who pretend to be your friends, and really they'll snake you behind your back. This is part of it, man. This is part of it. But like I said, we're groomed this way. We're groomed this way. It comes natural to us because it trickles down to generation. You know what I mean? Because we fell under these curses, and then you become groomed this way. When you gangbang, a lot of people groom their children to follow after the same gang. So now they got the same enemies and they really didn't have nothing to do with it. You see? All right. Let's go into something else. Let me see. That's what I want. Okay. How many of you heard of regressive tax increase? Regressive taxes, I'll say that. Regressive taxes. All right. All right, regressive taxes increase poverty and income inequality because they take a larger percentage of income from low-income households. We were just talking about ghettos. From low-income households than from high-income households. By taxing consumption, sales tax, excise tax, rather than income, these taxes disproportionately reduce the disposable income of the poor, limiting their access to essentials like healthcare and education, right? So this affects the people of low income more. You see that? It affects the people of low income more. Who are a lot of the people of lower income are people, right? And we'll prove that. Okay. Regressive taxes, such as sales tax, excise taxes, and fines, disproportionately increase poverty among Black and Hispanic households in the United States. Because these communities historically possess less accumulated wealth and on average lower incomes, they must spend a larger percentage of their earnings on taxable goods, resulting in a higher effective tax rate compared to white households. You see that? This is done on purpose. Like I said, everything is set up against Israel. Everything is set up against us. Right? This regressive tax affects Blacks and Hispanics more than anyone else. You see that? Black households frequently bear the highest share of income-based taxes, particularly in southern states, due to reliance on sales tax and lower average income levels. Studies indicate Black households are more likely to be subject to income-based taxes and also face higher rates of audits. Hispanic households experience higher poverty rates and are also disproportionately affected by high sales and excise tax. Native American households experience high rates of poverty, 23% in 2022, and are severely impacted by regressive systems. Intersections with gender: Hispanic 17.7%, Asian 19.3%, Black 19.9%. Women have the highest poverty rates, with almost 1/5 living below the poverty line. You see what I'm saying? So this regressive tax, it's based on, you know what I mean? Its focus hurts our people the most. You see how it said blacks, Hispanics, and natives, and then it went into women, right? We say, by and large, blacks, Hispanics, natives are the children of Israel. You see what I'm saying? Blacks, Hispanics, and natives, by and large, of Negroid descent, are the true children of Israel. And then you see these curses falling upon the children of Israel, right? You see these curses falling upon the children of Israel, right? Let's go back to Deuteronomy. Chapter 28. And we'll kind of jump around a little bit on this. So Deuteronomy 28 and verse 48. Start at 48. Deuteronomy 28 verse 48, right? It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies with which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee." Right? We're going to go to our enemies for everything, and he's going to put a yoke of iron on our neck. What is the yoke of iron? It's a burden, right? This regressive tax, that's a burden. Ghettos, that's a burden. Poverty, you know what I mean? That's a burden. The laws Americans make against us, that's a burden. You see what I'm saying? We have to serve our enemies. And like I said, when we just read regressive tax, it only gave you three so-called nationalities: blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Right? Let's drop down. Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep until he have destroyed thee, right? So we work for this stuff, but they reap the benefits, like we said earlier. They reap the benefits. Nothing is left for us. You see what I'm saying? We get the scraps, you know what I mean? But later on, you see that that woman from the other nation asks for even the crumbs from the Yahweh Shai. Right now, this is what we get. You see what I'm saying? But the tables are turned when Yahweh Shai comes back. Let's draw down verse 63. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiceth over you to do good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. Right? All of these things, we fall subject to these things, and everything works against us because we are disobedient to the Most High. We're hard-headed, stiff-necked, whatever you want to call it. We're disobedient, so we fall subject to all of these things. And we're just showing right now how it applies right now. You see what I'm saying? Laws in America, ghettos, taxes, so on and so forth. We're just showing you what it looks like today, right? Here's another way we can see it today. All right. This is a very big one, and this one bothers me a lot. All right. So I just typed in, America tries to break up black families. Right? So let's look at it. The United States, The United States has documented history. Said that all bogus. The United States has documented history of systemic practices that break up black families, evolving from the forced separations of slavery to modern day disproportionate child modern day disproportionate child welfare interventions, and mass incarceration. Black children are twice as likely to be separated from their families as white children, often driven by under resourcing, over policy, and economic disparities. Right? Historical context: slavery systematically destroyed Black families, with over half of enslaved people separated from a parent or child. Post slavery, laws like Black codes continued to destabilize households, right? Family policing system. The modern child welfare system act as a family policy policing, Salakia, policing system where Black families face higher rates of investigation and separation. Advocates argue this system often conflates poverty with neglect, disproportionately affecting Black families. Criminal justice system. Mass incarceration, mandatory sentencing, and the war on drugs have significantly contributed to the separation of Black parents from their children, creating long-term instability. Policy and economic factors, historical and ongoing, such as racial disparities in welfare policies like TANF, and access to housing, employment, have put immense pressure on the stability of Black family structure. Long-term impact: these systemic actions have created enduring trauma, contributing to cycles of poverty and economic inequality. These practices are described by experts as continuous, systemic, and sometimes legalized disruption of Black family life. You see that? It is literally set up to tear your family apart. All right? It's set up to tear your family apart. Now, let's go back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 32. Is that up there? Yeah. All right, Deuteronomy 28, verse 32 says, Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day, and there shall be no might in thy hand. You see that? Our children have been ripped away from us for centuries, and we didn't have the power to do anything about it. We still don't. CPS will come in your house, take your family, rip your family apart right now, and you ain't got the power to do anything about it. You got to try to jump through hoops. You got to try to shuck and jive for them so that way you can get your family back. Right? Let's go. I know I'm running low on time. Let's go to Lamentations. Lamentations chapter 1 and verse 5. It says, Her adversaries are the chief. Her adversaries are the chief, her enemies prosper, for the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. You see what I'm saying? This pertains to all of Israel. You see what I'm saying? Pertains to all of Israel. And you can see it today, like I said, because we're talking about today's society and how things work against us today, right? How the game is rigged for us today. Doesn't matter if we in 2026, it still works against us today, right? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 41. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 41. We just read that our children will go into captivity, right? Deuteronomy 28 and 41 says, Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. You see that? When your children are ripped away from you and they go into social services, they're in captivity too. You see what I'm saying? They're in captivity too. They're in a form of prison themselves. You see what I'm saying? They're in a form of prison themselves. Let's get 2 Chronicles 29. 2 Chronicles 29, verse 9. It says, "For lo, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity for this." You see what I'm saying? What do? They take out the father, right? They take out the father. You take out the head, the body falls, right? Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 5. Nehemiah chapter 5 and verse 5. "Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children. And lo, we bring into bondage our sons and our daughters to be servants. And some of our daughters are brought unto bondage already. Neither is it in our power to redeem them. For other men have our lands and vineyards." You see what I'm saying? We're ruled over right now, and our people continuously go into bondage, right? I said this was a setup. How do we see that it was a setup? Let's go here. Let's go here. The Willie Lynch letter, right? On how to make a slave. Now I'm going to just read some of the highlighted parts, okay? Just so we get an understanding, right? Okay, so right here it says, "I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves," right? Now let's go to some of the highlight parts. It says, "I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. It will control the slaves for at least 300 years. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes," right? We have fear. You're afraid of, like, when police get behind you, you become afraid. Distrust. It's hard for our people to trust one another. Envy. If you got something, I want that too. I'm jealous of your girl. I'm jealous of your house. I'm jealous of your car. You see what I'm saying? So on and so forth. And he is saying he uses these things on us in order to control us, right? "I shall give you an outline of action, but before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect or admiration." You see what I'm saying? Distrust is crucial, right? You get to not trusting somebody, oh, it's over. It's probably the end of y'all relationship, friendship, whatever you want to call it. You see what I'm saying? Let's keep going. You must use female versus the male and the male versus the female. You must also have all your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Whoo. That's cold. You know what I'm saying? That's cold. And like I said, we see this today. We see this today. Like I told y'all, me and Captain Zakaria, we would be in like Clubhouse and we'll have debates, and you'll see a lot of brothers who are coons who put all their faith, trust, and heart and soul into these Edomites and will hate on us. Right? Let's keep going. Here we go. This is what I want. The breaking process of the African woman. It says, then take the female, run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly, right? A lot of our sisters will battle, fuss, fight their husband at home, but when they go to work, they bow. You see what I'm saying? I understand that you need to keep your job and so on and so forth. But if you can be submissive at work, why wouldn't you be submissive to the one that is the head of you? Right? Test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract the last bit of, and it says female dog, but we know the word that it's talking about. To extract the last bit of it out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of subject matter concerning what we produce here is the breaking process of the female nigger. We have reserved the relationships. Salaki. Yeah, we have reversed the relationships. In her natural, uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise the female offspring to be dependent like her. Nature had provided this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling one civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In the frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. You see what I'm saying? The Negro marriage unit. We breed 2 nigger males with 2 nigger females. Then we take the nigger males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say the one nigger female bears another nigger female and the other bears a nigger male. Both nigger females being without influence of the nigger male image, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, and negotiate at her will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she being frozen with a subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these 2 offspring become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, all of this was a setup. Even if you go into this controlled language, you see what I'm saying? It talks about them speaking their language and taking our language away. You see what I'm saying? So it goes into all of that. You see that? Why is it like this? Because everyone is against Israel. Everyone's against Israel, right? Let's get Psalms chapter 83. Book of Psalms chapter 83 and verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. Hold on, did I pull it up? Salakia. There you go. All right. Psalms 83 and verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up thy head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. All the stuff that we went through tonight was crafty counsel, right? Ghettos, laws, Willie Lynch letter, regressive taxes, so on and so forth, right? This is crafty counsel against the children of Israel. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a physical yoke of iron. You don't have to physically get hit with a bullwhip nowadays. You're already being broken. This is crafty counsel, right? They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Do a lot of our people know who we are to this day? Nope. Nope. Verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent. All these other nations are on the same page against us. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, Ishmaelites, Moab, Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, and as to Jabin at the brook of Kazan, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth, right? So we're asking, so right here, we're asking, this song is us asking for help because we understand that all of these nations are against us. Everyone's against us, right? Let's get chapter 10, Psalm chapter 10. Psalm chapter 10 and verse 9. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net, right? Everything is a trap. Everything is a trap. Everything is a setup. Everything works against us. You see what I'm saying? And it's easy to get us. All they got to do is dangle some money in their face, put a certain type of woman in your face, so on, so on, so on. All they got to do is tempt you. And it's easy to catch you. Right? Let's get chapter 56. And verse 6. Psalms 56 and verse 6 says, they gather themselves together, they hide themselves, they mark my steps when they wait for my soul. You see, everything is a plot, everything is a plan. You see what I'm saying? They don't do anything just on the fly. No, all of this is a plan and it's set in motion, right? Let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to end it right here with this. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Salakia. No, I'm not. I almost cut y'all short. My bad. All right. There we go. Okay, I said that everything is a plan to work against us, right? Let's get this. Let's go to the book of 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 6. We have to jump through hoops when it comes to a lot of things, right? What is this? Okay. We have to jump through a lot of hoops for a lot of things, right? Even our people, you know what I mean? When it comes to keeping feast days, when it comes to keeping the Sabbath, so on and so forth. A lot of people are borderline. They're teeter-totter, you know what I mean? A lot of people will hate, discriminate, so on and so forth, right? But they will call Amalek the people of Israel, right? The children of Israel. Not understanding that this is actually the wrong people and that we are the right people, right? So let's go to the book of 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 6, right? Like I said, it's been a setup from jump, okay? Second Maccabees chapter 2, verse 6 says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. When we go online, you can look at, who was it? Nick Cannon and stuff like that, right? Confessed himself to be a Jew, an Israelite, right? They threatened him, threatened to take away his stuff and stuff like that, made him speak to a rabbi and apologize and so on and so on and so on. See what I'm saying? They do a lot of our people like that. They try to hit Kyrie Irving. You know what I mean? You see, if we say too many things about us being the children of Israel, they'll try to shut our page down. You see what I'm saying? Or they'll try to block it or something like that. You see what I'm saying? We have to really come to the realization that we are the true children of Israel and that everything is working against us. Right? Let's go to First Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 2. Now start at verse 6. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 6, it says, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me, wherefore I was born to see the misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemies, and the sanctuary into the hand of the strangers. Her temple is become a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she is become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. You see this in verse 10. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom? Every nation has had a hand in our destruction, in our oppression, in our misery. You see what I'm saying? Every nation has had a hand in it. You see that? Now I'm going to give one more scripture and we'll call it a wrap. So basically, we have to understand that we have to keep it in mind that everything is against us. This is why I said the game is rigged. The game is not made for us. This is why we are to be separate. You see what I'm saying? We separate ourselves from the rest of the world. Now, with us knowing that the game is rigged and that everything is against us, let's go here. And we'll wrap it up with this. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 24. Book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 13. It says, but he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. All right. So with everything working against us, we understand that we still have to endure to the end. We know, and if you actually pay attention, you know what's working against you. All right. All nations, and they're working in different ways and similar ways against you, no matter what. All right, so we'll call it a wrap right there. Throw one in the chat for me if you were edified, if you understood the class. Throw a quick one in the chat for me. Con, sis. Con. Con, the buck. Yeah. Yeah. Con, all praises, all praises. All right. Glad y'all was edified. Glad y'all can join us again on a Thursday night. You know, I try not to make the class too long. I didn't even know it was going to be that long. But all praise to the Most High. All praise and glory to the Most High. Stay tuned tomorrow for Detroit's class and Saturday for Priest class. And those of y'all who's in the academy Sunday, you know, So Lord's will, see y'all in class. Like I said, the water for joining us every week. I'll say Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shaparakatham. All praise and glory to the Most High, Washamaratham. And with that, I will say Shalom.
I wanna praise you, Yahweh. I wanna thank you, Yahweh. I'm so grateful, Yahweh. I wanna thank you, Yahweh.
For the promise, life is a blessing and life is a lesson. Life is a setback and life is progression. Life is uneasy at times, life is comfortable. Life will lift you up and at times life will humble you. Life is a gift, you better thank the Lord for it. Every chance you get, someone is less fortunate. Life goes in circles, life throws you curveballs. Life can be deceiving like preachers in the church halls. Life isn't promised. If I could be honest, the fact that I'm alive, that time has me astonished. Cause I came from the underground, being tossed around, being lost and found. Now they adore the sound of the priest, far from a nuance. Verses are proverbs, written's are the new songs. Another song for the blocks and the avenues. Everything is plain, I don't speak to them in parables.
I wanna praise you, Yahweh.
I wanna praise you.
I wanna thank you, Yahweh. I'm so grateful,
I'm so grateful.
Yahweh. I wanna thank you, Yahweh.
For the power, I see the world through different eyes. Every Sunday got the preacher telling different lies, hearing things that I really couldn't visualize. Should've listened, Big said you'd be hypnotized. I was a victim too, I say respectfully. They all up in the soup, don't know the recipe. Talking about I'm not who I was bred to be. Count me out, man, who made you the referee? Trying to get stripes, trying to cloud chase. At 19, I made an about face. Thanks to Christ, it's also about grace. And they lied when they said it ain't about race. But that's another song, I ain't the first to tell you. Woke up on a deeper and a surface level. Learned the laws and the laws changed my attitude. And the song is to show you how a gratitude. I'm so grateful.
I wanna praise you,